Hello and welcome to TA for Traders. It's Thursday the 16th of November. In this video we're going to look at two UK and two US stocks. In the UK we're going to look at two stocks that, although in the medium to long term they look negative looking at the charts, in the short term I believe there could be a short-term bounce. Those stocks are Smiths Industries and GKN. Then in the States, we're going to look at Rost Stores, which is coming out with figures this evening. So a stock very much of interest today. And we'll also look at Boeing, which yesterday announced some big orders from the Dubai Air Show. And we'll look at the charts there. Let's look at those charts. So starting with Smiths Group, which is the code SMIN, and you'll see that we are in a downtrend on this weekly. However, we are towards the lower boundary of the downtrend, so there'd be no surprise if there were a short-term bounce, but we do have negative momentum. RSI presently at 41.24. and the short-term MACD just starting to diverge from the longer term below zero. Looking at the daily, and here you can see we're overextended away from those moving averages. Yes, the moving averages are negative as they move down and as the 200 rolls over, but the overextension away from there does give scope for some short-term upside. That 20-day is at about 1544, and you can see the extent of the oversold condition on the RSI, which did get below 30 and is presently 33.82, and the MACD again indicating negative momentum, but the short term has become overextended away from the longer term with a reading of negative 21. On the 4 hour, again overextended to the downside. RSI went right down below 20, is having a short-term bounce and has potential to get up at least to the moving averages. The 50 here is roughly where the 20 days 1544. The 20 on the 4 hour is at 1511. Moving on to GKN. On this weekly picture, you can see the gaps that we've had, and it does look slightly a concern now that the moving averages are moving down as well, and there's solid negative momentum. Slightly getting oversold on the RSI. That's down below 30, 27.96. On the daily, again we created a gap today. I see that we are bouncing already. This gap could be the exhaustion gap. It says that there was a gap on the 27th of June. Then we had a downside gap on the 13th of October. We've had another downside gap today. The third gap I always call the exhaustion gap, and that usually means that the selling pressures have subsided, will have been satisfied and exhausted, and then hopefully there won't be any more downside gaps and it can start to base build. You can see that a move up to just above 300 would fill the gap, and really that should be expected. I'm quite disappointed actually that in the hour that I've decided to do GKN and doing the other videos, then coming back to do the stock, that the actual stock has bounced about 10p. So slightly disappointing, but I do believe there is further upside. RSI starting to look slightly oversold, 27.71, and the MACD just indicating the the negative momentum. And on the 4 hour, again you can see the extent of the gap. Those moving averages will move down very quickly, and they will give resistance. We are overextended obviously from those moving averages, and we are oversold. RSI on this 4 hour is right down at 18.4, and you can see it has been down this low before, but we had a bounce quite quickly. MACD again indicating negative momentum. Okay, going over to the States, Rost Stores, which has the code ROST, is coming out with figures this evening. Quite an interesting chart, finding support above the 50-week moving average. That will start to roll upwards, provided we stay above there, and could give the impetus for a move up to the next resistance level, which is seen just above 68. Momentum is okay, drifting along with positive momentum. RSI presently 57.54, and the MACD are tracking up and have moved back above zero. On the daily, you can see that we're finding support from the 20 and the 50-day moving averages, which is good. Today with the figures, there could be a bigger move. Looking at this daily and the support from the 20-day, one would hope that it will be to the upside. We just need to break this downtrend or flag resistance, which would need a move above 65.81, and then we could be starting to test the 68s again. To the downside, the 50-day is at 63.33. Momentum, again, we're just drifting with upside momentum. RSI 54.72, and the MACD drifting sideways, but they are above zero. On the short term, looking at this 4 hour, again, it's finding support at the moving averages, so they will be key as we go through the figures today. The 50-day is actually edging downwards, so would become negative if we close below that on a 4 hour. Presently at 63.99. If that were the case, then one would expect the support at 62.4 to be tested on which is the bottom of the flag. Again, RSI just bubbling along above 50, 51.76. Likewise, the MACD just drifting, moving sideways, but above zero. Moving on to Boeing, which has the code BA. They announced some big orders yesterday from the Dubai Air Show. You can see they're in a solid uptrend on the weekly, perhaps still slightly overextended away from the moving averages, so a further consolidation would not be a concern. RSI positive 76.59, MACD just ticking along at a high level. On the daily, you can see that we're finding support from the 20-day. Perhaps we are losing a bit of upside momentum, but the RSI does remain above 50, 55.44, and the MACD are tracking still above zero. I would say you stay with Boeing unless we break below the 50-day and close below that. That's at 256.74. A break below there would break the mold of this chart really, and then one would expect a consolidation phase, which could then eventually bring us back to supports in the 240 to 234 area. And on the 4 hour, again, it's a similar picture. We're finding support from the moving averages. They're still moving up. Again, it would be a concern if we move below them, but you stay with any bullish position until there's the breakdown. The RSI again indicating positive momentum, 53.22, and the MACD still marginally above zero as they move sideways. So that's been TA for traders, looking at 4 stocks. Smith's Group, GKN, Rost Stores and Boeing. I hope you found the video of interest. I do know that I rattle very quickly through these single stock charts, but you can always rewind if you found one of them particularly of interest. Thanks for watching the video. These videos that I do on YouTube are not an investment recommendation. They're just my opinion and are there for educational purposes.